5 and welcome to Thursday's topic lesson with me, Miss Medlicott. In today's session we are carrying on with our music and linking it into the rainforest theme. We're going to be using musical terms such as rhythm, pulse, volume, texture to describe and compose a piece of music, to compose a piece of rainforest music, to create a graphic score for a piece, and to label a graphic score in a clear way. So if you cast your minds back to yesterday's lesson, you started to experiment and explore with different instruments that you have at home. And I say instruments, some of you might have actual musical instruments, others of you might have had to make up your own instruments. If you remember from yesterday's lesson, I was using pots and pans and glasses and forks to create different sorts of sounds, and we're building it all together to create a rainforest composition. From yesterday's lesson, you should have your graphic score, which was the design with the rainforest and the different layers of the rainforest. You should have that, and you should have labelled it with the instruments that you had chosen for each layer. If you don't have that in front of you now, please go and retrieve it. So pause the video to go and fetch it. Okay, now that you've collected that, you've got your item in place. And you're ready to start today's lesson. So let's recap then the key vocabulary that we're going to need to use today and that we need to have an understanding of in order to create the most effective composition that we can. So texture. Musicians, such as yourselves, mix and layer the sounds they are playing to create texture. This makes the piece more interesting to listen to. Rhythm is the pattern of long and short sounds as you move through the song. So in today's lesson we're going to be experimenting with different types of pattern that you can use with your different instruments. Volume of a sound is how loud or quiet the sound is. And then the pulse is the steady beat, like a ticking clock or your heartbeat. And you'll remember from last lesson we practiced finding our heartbeat. To remind you, try and find your pulse either on your neck or you could use your wrist as well. That is the steady, constant beat. And we count that by using what's called beats per minute. Okay, now that we've refreshed our memories of the musical vocabulary, we can get started with our main activity. So, as I mentioned, you should have your graphic score ready. Now, the graphic score is basically like your it's your set of music. So it's providing you with your instructions, as you like, as to how to play your piece. Now, your graphic score has the picture of the trees, and here's my example on the screen. Okay, so I've got my image here of the rainforest. And I've clearly divided it into my 3 parts that we're creating the sounds and music for. The forest floor, the understory layer, and the canopy layer. I did say last lesson that you could also have the emergent layer, so a 4th layer to your piece if you so wish. That's only a choice, that's your choice though. Otherwise we're going to stick to these 3 main ones. So you need to have this in front of you, ready and labelled. And hopefully you've also written down the musical instruments that you have chosen for each part. And what we're going to do today, what you're going to do, is to start to write down more detailed instructions as to how you're going to play that instrument. And I'm going to give you a few ideas as to how you can do that. But what you need to understand for today's session is that your graphic score is yours. So you need to be able to understand it because you're going to have a go at playing these different parts. So whatever you write has to be understandable to you. And we're going to use either pictures or lines to show how we're going to include things like rhythm, pulse, volume and texture and so on. So, as I mentioned to you, you're going to label your score with instructions and pictures so you understand how to play each part. Now what I have done on my canopy layer, if you remember, I was doing a bit of experimenting with the glass, and I also used a fork. Now you could use a fork, I could also use a pen. Depends on really what you think sounds best. And what I've got here is I've done a line on my canopy layer here. As the line goes up, it means that it's getting louder, and then as the line falls, it's getting quieter, and then you might build it up again, and then you're getting quieter. Okay, so I want you to think about how you are going to be playing your particular instrument. Is it going to be a continuous, or is there going to be more of a gap? Now, as I have drawn the line here, it's one continuous sound, so it means I'm constantly hitting it. That might not actually sound right. So what I could do is I could put dashes, breaks in the line there to show that there's more of a gap between them. Okay, so what you are going to do is have a go at drawing or writing your instructions, labelling your graphic score to make so that you understand how to play it. So are you going to do a steady kind of rhythm? Is it going to get louder or quieter? How are you going to play those parts? So pause the video now to have a go at doing that. Okay, so moving on then to the understory layer. If you remember, I didn't have any pasta, but I have these little milk things in a pan. Okay, so the little milk cartons in a pan, and it kind of has a similar sort of effect. And I've used here sort of almost like dashes, okay, and there are breaks in between, so it's a short, sharp. Oh, one's fallen over. Whoops, and another. But it's showing that I am doing stop-start motion. Okay, it's not a continuous sound, but it's boom, boom, boom. So it's giving us a sense of the pulse, of the beat, and I'm trying to keep the volume the same at the moment. But again, you might want to experiment with different sounds, different turns. Maybe you're going to have things happening very quickly, but then it slows down. So how could you show that in a way that's going to be clear to you? So Year 5, please feel free to experiment with different sounds, different rhythms. Remember, rhythm is that pattern of long and short sounds, okay? It's that pattern. So think about how you want that to sound. How are you going to write that on your graphic score? Pause the video now to have a go. And then lastly, we've got our forest floor. Now, if you remember, I had my cereal box, which crucially hasn't been opened. We don't want to be tipping out open cereal boxes everywhere. So I've got my drum beat here, so I'm thinking of footsteps and how I might keep that beat. And I could shake it. Okay, and I've done here a long line and then a small line. So it could be that you're going to be doing a particular sound. Maybe you're going to do It's up to you how you want to represent that. Remember, it's got to be written on your score in a way that you can understand it. You might prefer pictures, you might prefer words. It's up to you. Please feel free to treat this as very much your own composition, your own score. I'm just giving you some ideas. So pause the video now to do your forest floor sounds. Okay, so now that you've had a go at labelling your score according to the pattern, the rhythm of the sounds, you've got to make sure it's easy for you to understand and interpret. So have you considered what the beats are? What is the rhythm? What is the volume? Try playing your piece using your instruments according to the score. So check to see whether you do understand and can interpret it by having a go at playing the instruments yourself. Pause the video now to do that. Okay, Year 5, very well done for your efforts today. And what we'll do tomorrow is you're going to have a chance at actually recording your piece and seeing, and reviewing it and what went well, what was easy to do, what was difficult, and which sounds you found the most effective and why. So I'll see you all again next time. Bye.